This is Deo Teachings Part 2. As in the first lesson, I discussed the levels, meaning that if you're halfway up a mountain and it is the 26th day with heaven above the mountain, you may come across two stagnant individual levels before reaching the zenith, where you'll find the heavenly line will reach you to a more positive place. Now, in discussing the levels, today I'd like to focus more so on the internal hexagrams to define the mind and body. It is exceedingly paramount that no matter how good the hexagram looks, for instance, if it is number 9, wind above heaven, seemingly that this would be a nice place. It may seem nice, and it could be that there are many eldest daughters in heaven as it proposes, but what you must consider is the internal hexagrams. Now, the top nuclear hexagram of the internal states that the mind will be on fire and that the body would be like a lake. Now, this might be handleable to some people, but to other people could be treacherous. You've got to understand that this is how they get down. This is how they communicate. Lake body is very susceptible to touch. The transference is huge, and the fire mind can be easily ignited. What's interesting about the next hexagram is heaven above the lake, which gives an internal hexagram of a fire body and a wind mind. This also may seem like the most beautiful hexagram, where heaven upon the lake, both positive, very feminine places to be. This 10th hexagram conduct could be a place of demons with a fire body and a wind mind. Or it could be that it is most akin to woman. Now, a woman with a fire body could have a less demonic sense, as the middle daughter is the fire. They may be able to handle it more, or possibly not. But let's just say if a male fire body with a wind mind turns up, then they'll be exposed to all their demonology sensibilities. And as Terence McKenna described in one of his I Ching lectures, quite often the preceding hexagram is the opposite of the one that comes before. It links up and it travels in pairs. If you take number 9 with the wind above heaven and you rotate it 180 degrees, you get the 10th hexagram, which is heaven above the lake. This works throughout the I Ching calendar consistently. It is a very valuable tool, and quite often it is the easiest way of memorizing if you get lost in your study of the 64 hexagrams. I personally have memorized a lot, but one thing to consider is the double hexagrams, which run through the center of the table. You've got 1, heaven. You've got 51, like thunder above thunder. You've got 29, water above water, and so on and so forth as it runs through. There's obviously 8 different types of mind. You could have a heavenly mind, which is a very excellent day for communicating, getting things done. You could have a thunder mind, which could also be like thunder itself and like a cloud, or it could almost be robotic in some sense. You could have a water mind, which is calm, which is more of a collective. People with water minds can traverse great distances in communication. You could have a mountain mind, which is the mountain is well, stable, full of heavenly light, sometimes full of fire, as the mountain has fire within it. You could have an earth mind, which could seem like your natural mind. You could have a wind mind, which is like a collective sharing of minds. When the mind has wind upon it, it's like it can commune over close distances, seemingly far away but exposed. You could have a fire mind, which could be easily disrupted, very internally your own, but also a communicative mind over very short distances between people. If 2 people have a fire mind and they're walking down the street, you could find they could commune with each other. And then you've got a lake mind, which is probably run by a Trinity daughter which depends on her unique goddess abilities to stabilize and commune, filled with a sort of liquid, I suppose, not dissimilar to the water mind. And next I'd like to touch on birthdays. Now, to me, birthdays are very important to the all-rounding of a being. Let's say if you were born on the 25th of the month, like Jesus Christ, that would be heaven above the thunder, which would give you a mountain body, very stable, not flexible, not as flexible probably, and wind mind, which would mean he could be able to commune over distances. His mind would be very open, exposed, and possibly filled with innocence. His path would be, I like to think of thunder below heaven as a form of war on earth, not a physical war, but something that needs to be done, or something that needs to be defended, being watched by heaven. Now, this is just the 25th day. If you can go away and look up your own birthday, figure out the internal 4 lines with the 2 on the outside, and then take the bottom 3 portions, figure out which hexagram element it is, and there you have your body, and then the internal top 3 defines the mind. So you can go away and do that. And then you've got to realize that every year of birth you're under a different ruler. Say if you were 5 years old and you were starting school, you'd be ruled by the water gods, and you'd be in a place of heaven. Isn't first year at primary school such a great year? It may seem like such the perfect hexagram for the year, but you've got to understand that being surrounded by water and being in heaven on earth with the water gods watching, you've also got a fire mind, which means you have to be aware of this. And if a child was aware of this and told not to get too frustrated, because the fire can be agitated in the mind, and also you've got a lake body, which means susceptible to touch, to quite a strong point, and combined, you could also go as far as to say that the internal lake body with the fire mind is the same as the 38th hexagram, which is opposition. So you could have your internal opposition within you. Something to consider. I found last year when I was 42 years old, I had a mountain mind, very dark, very dark. Some days it was heavenly, but quite often it was to do with recognizing different types of evil. Sort of like being trapped below a mountain, a hellish place. And well, at 43, it seems as though the heavenly body and the heavenly mind have repaired itself straight away on my birthday. Therefore, I find this knowledge is quite true. The darkness of the mountain mind just disappeared. There's other things to consider. For instance, like your 21st birthday. Why this is celebrated, I'm not sure. But one thing I do know is that a lot of wars are fought with the mind of water. Now, the 21st is the fire above thunder, ruled by the fire lords in heaven or above the earth, and at war amongst the thunder. I say war, but it's more a place of getting things done and avoiding conflict or contributing to conflict, and just doing your part, really. The 21st is the mind of water. I mean, maybe it's been already acknowledged, and you're in a happy place because you've got the mind of water that year, and everyone's celebrating because you've come out of the mountain mind, which is number 20, which is wind above the earth. And all you've achieved in the last year comes to fruition. There's a few more parts about the mind. Certain bodies, as I explained, if you had a, say for instance, number 32 duration, Durian's Day, if you have a heavenly body and a lake mind, does that make you a giant lake? You know, if you add it up and it's positive, 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 and then negative, is that one giant lake? Are you a lake amongst the trees. Is that what you are for the duration? Now there's many other things which are yet to be discovered upon the different frames of mind, but you've got to remember that there are cures out there. So if you have a thunder mind and you're worried about it being electronic or slightly susceptible to machines, maybe you could go out and drink some Coca-Cola to get rid of the electricity, or you could exuberate it with the Powerade and electrolytes it and see what happens. If you had a fire mind, you could find some nice, cool aloe vera juice to calm it. There's cures everywhere. But I think this gets to the crux of the foundation of frustration and anger and all these sorts of emotions that arise on a day-to-day basis. You might wake up one morning and feel like you're just frustrated at the world and you don't know what's wrong with you, and you're just angry at every little thing. You don't know why. And then you can look to this book and be like, right, it's the 9th of January today. It says I've got a fire mind. No wonder I'm angry at some things. Maybe I'll just go and find a nice cold glass of something and relax for the day, because the fire mind shouldn't get frustrated, and if you can control this, it's a great thing. There are a few other things about the mind, mostly the comparison and collectiveness which goes between the elements. So if you had a wind body and no, that's not possible. You can't have a wind body and a fire mind, you see. But you can have a fire body with a wind mind, which is a place of, which is, if you can imagine, say a demon. If you can imagine a demon with a body made of fire, and all the fire expelling up through the arms and into the head, and the head being made of wind. This would be like a demonic being. And some people might realize that on a particular day and say, I'm made of fire. My mind is evil. They might realize this one day and think it's a gradual part of life, and I've become evil. And they stick to it for the rest of their days because they think, right, I've evolved into an evil thing, and that is me. It's not actually the case. I think people should take life on a day-to-day basis. Whether there's always hope for tomorrow is the point. So that's enough about the mind. There's natural cures in every supermarket. The Chinese probably know it best, but they haven't quite put it the same way that I've put it. So go and look up your birthday. Figure out what you were born on this earth. Think about why you ascended or descended from wherever you were in your past life to arrive on this day. And be aware out there, if you're making babies, that 2 fire spirits will probably make a fire baby. So if you don't want a demon in your life, or you prefer to give birth to an angel, then figure it out. See you next time for Chapter 3. Goodbye.